The estimates vary a lot. I've seen estimates of the low number of 5,000 to more than 10,000.
And from what I can tell, several of these peaceful pro-Trump supporters were attacked.
More than several, unfortunately. So on Saturday, you and many of your listeners may have seen some of these viral videos recorded by independent journalists on the ground showing as participants of the peaceful rally were dispersing to go home or go to their hotels. They were followed, harassed, intimidated, and in some cases beaten and robbed in the streets of the nation's capital.
Andy, I got a text from a friend of mine who is a cop, and he was angry at the Capitol Police who said that they were standing by as these peaceful pro-Trump supporters were being beaten up, and they also blocked the passage of the pro-Trump supporters, so they had to walk through a Black Lives Matter / Antifa group of people.
Yeah, so we saw this a lot actually in 2015, 2016, when there were various Trump campaign rallies in liberal cities. You may remember, like in San Jose and other cities, as attendees of these rallies were leaving in their cars or walking to their cars, they were corralled down certain streets that basically funneled them into the pathway of these counter-demonstrators, many of whom are violent. Well, that was repeated. I think it just demonstrates that police don't really have a good command structure on how to respond, and keeping two sides of people who the numbers are so large separate. Inadvertently, what happens in the end, as we saw on Saturday, is they end up putting people in the line of actual danger.
I'm talking to Andy No. He is a reporter, was on the ground in Washington, D.C. this weekend at the Million Mega March, where a lot of the Trump supporters were attacked by violent members of apparently Black Lives Matter or Antifa. Do we know, Andy, who it was who was doing the attacking?
We have several names of people who have been arrested and charged, but as for political affiliations of some of the other people who are masked who are not apprehended and probably will never be, we can never be particularly sure. But given that the Black Lives Matter Plaza in D.C. became the rallying point with speeches and signs to refuse fascism and chants of Black Lives Matter and also other Antifa chants, I think it's safe to assume the political ideology that these people belong to varies between Black Lives Matter as well as Antifa.
If you want to witness some of these acts of violence that Andy and I are talking about, I posted a lot of them on my Twitter feed. Just go to my Twitter feed, @LarryElder, and you'll see them. Andy, were very many people arrested?
I read one report that up to 20 people were arrested by Metropolitan Police in D.C., although when I looked at the press release, at least from Sunday, they only released 4 names, although what's interesting is one of them, one of the individuals arrested and charged for sucker punching a man in one of the viral videos and knocking him unconscious to the ground. His name is Kenneth DeBerry. And I looked up his background. He is a registered child sex offender in the D.C. area who was recently released from federal prison. Today, I just wrote a report that was published on the Post-Millennial identifying one of the suspects that police were looking for. They had released her photograph, and I found out her name, Brittany McAllister. She's actually a journalism student at Howard University. So, you look at these people who, so far, who have been identified and are involved and filmed on camera participating acts of violent crimes. They vary from those who work in journalism to BLM activists. I think that tells us a lot.
Mm-hmm. My guest is Andy No. He is editor-at-large of the Post-Millennial. It's a Canadian conservative news site. And I said they were the Capitol Police. You're right. They were the Metropolitan Police. Andy, we only have about a minute left. I saw a lot of footage of old people, elderly people, seemingly minding their own business. Their crime was carrying a Trump flag or wearing a Trump T-shirt. And they had water thrown on them. In one case, this man seemed to have been knocked down.
Yeah, you're talking about a person on an older man on a bicycle who was
Right.
trying to leave, and somebody just ran up and knocked him to the ground. They were dumping all this liquid on him. You know, these type of acts of intimidation, harassment, violence, it's straight out of the Antifa MO, which is that they want to make it so consequential for Trump supporters participating in the political process that people just shut up and stay at home. It's terrorism, and that is happening in America's capital city. The symbolism of that is extremely disturbing.
Well, Andy, remember we've had a sitting congressperson, Maxine Waters, literally tell people to, when they see a Trump cabinet member, surround them, let them know they're not welcome, let them know they're not welcome anymore. You had one of the quarter of the squad, Rashida Tlaib, referring to the President of the United States as a mother effer. So if you've been spending 4 years calling Donald Trump a racist and saying that all of his supporters are also racist, you can pretty much justify almost anything. Andy, no, thank you very much for taking the time. We really do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Wow.